Welcome back to the Pro-Pilot Playbook podcast. I'm Sean. I'm a corporate pilot, and I'm joined here with Mike.
I'm Mike Martin. I'm a corporate pilot also.
And we're here today to bring you, the whole purpose of this podcast is to bring you information on becoming a pilot faster and cheaper. And we typically do a little segment in, something that'll help you in your training or some little tidbit information about what we do. But today we have a little something different. We have a current event for you, something that just came out in the news today in December of 2019.
Yeah, and our plan is, as future aviators, to kind of keep you in the loop of what's going on in the industry also. Anything that will help you in your career and provide value, that's what we'd like to do here at the Pro-Pilot Playbook. So the big breaking news today that's kind of shaking up the corporate, charter world is Delta Airlines buys minority stake in private jet operator Wheels Up.
Yep, and this Wheels Up company, just in the last couple years, I see them everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, Wheels Up operates these. They're a charter company, so kind of like a taxi cab company for the sky. But they operate. They're in a weird. They got a nice little niche going.
Yeah.
They operate all of these inexpensive King Airs and these. Well, they have jets now too.
Yeah.
But they started off with all these turboprops everywhere.
Right.
And I literally see them just about every airport I'm at. There's a Wheels Up.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I think the brain behind it, and I haven't done a lot of research beforehand, but from what I know, it's one of the original founders of Marquis Jet. There's a guy named Jesse Itzler that's kind of the face of Marquis Jet, formed it. And
the Spanx girl husband.
Yeah, a female billionaire. That's the first ever, or not one of the only female billionaires, is his wife, who I think he met when he did Marquis Jet. But he had a business partner. I believe the guy's name's Ken Dichter, I think, and they both branched off after Marquis Jet did their own thing, and this guy created Wheels Up, which just exploded in growth. And their niche is these turboprops. If you're going a short distance, have almost the same speed as jets, because the turboprops are not as fast as jets.
Right.
The turboprop goes 300 knots, a jet goes 450 or whatever. But when you include the time to get to altitude and all that stuff on a short hop, like we're talking, say, New York to Boston, or even longer, New York to Detroit, or Cincinnati, Chicago, or whatever, Palm Beach to Atlanta.
Yep.
These type of missions, or San Diego to L.A.,
right.
There's almost no difference, and they're a lot less expensive to operate. So
significantly.
Yeah. So they kind of had a niche where they can charge less, but you still get the luxurious private travel to move people around, and I think their marketing is genius. Like you said, I mean, you see them everywhere.
Yeah. And I see their ads a lot of places too.
Yeah.
They're definitely doing something right.
In Delta, as you may know, they've been in the private jet market for a long time.
Yep.
So they operate the airline, obviously, which is one of the most prestigious airlines in the country, world maybe. But
largest airline in the world.
Yeah. And they have a division that right now is called Delta Private Jets, right?
Yep.
They changed the name to make it easier to understand what they actually do.
Sure. Yep. Before that, they were Delta Air Elite.
Yeah.
And that company started off actually here in Cincinnati, where we're at as a small charter company. And
it was part of Comair, right?
Yeah.
The old Comair Airlines, which was
wholly owned by Delta.
Yep. Out of business now. But so they've been in the private jet market, and I think Sean knows that they're trying to mesh airline travel and private jets.
So the reason why I find this article so interesting is about 12 years ago or so, when Delta Air Elite became Delta Private Jets, and at that time, that company owned its own airplanes. I think it owned like 6 aircraft at the time. And then when the name change came out, there was a shift in management, and they kind of revamped the whole company and went to this structure of seeking out mom and pop charter operators and getting them to fly under a managed program. Their mom and pop operators pilots would now wear Delta uniforms, and they'd give them flight benefits, and they would come under the Delta Private Jets label and basically use other people's aircraft to run the company. And that's
Yeah.
that's the structure they've been running under for the last 10 years or something, and they're doing okay with it. But for Delta, and their big plan at that time was to get this thing growing and growing and growing to the point where they could incorporate the private charter aspect into the main line of Delta. So where this would come into play is if you were at some market, some city out in the middle of nowhere in Nebraska, and you are trying to get to London tomorrow. Well, instead of driving 2 or 3 hours to the nearest city with airline service and then having to commute to, connect to get to a major hub,
Right.
to get on the airliner that would take you to London, now there would be a private jet picking you up.
Right.
You could do all this from the Delta website, buy your ticket, and it would be seamless to the customer, where they would just get on a private jet that would take you into the hub where you'd get on the big jet going to London.
Right.
So seeing this happen has me wondering whether that's a twinkle in somebody's eye sitting in the back boardroom of somewhere in Delta, that they're going to try to get this going again.
Yeah, that definitely is a definite possibility. And just for the viewers that don't understand the pricing on all of this stuff, but to take a private jet is very expensive anywhere. So, to take a private jet, a couple hours within the continental United States is very expensive. But when you get into taking a private jet internationally to Europe from the United States, it's a complete game change. I mean, it's way, way more money. So,
Right.
So that's why somebody might might think, well, if you're going to take a private jet from Nebraska to the hub, why don't you just take it all the way to
Right.
London?
Yeah. That you're talking apples and oranges, and even more so because now we're talking about a fleet of turboprops.
Right, that could cost effectively move people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and there's a lot of high net worth individuals that live in small markets, because some of these affluent places like Aspen or Jackson Hole, these are areas where they're small towns with a lot of wealthy people. And if you're trying to airline out of Jackson Hole, for instance, there's probably only a couple flights a day to 2 or 3 airports,
Right.
so you're going to end up connecting all over the place to get to where you want to go, where they can come in and extract you from these small market locations
with tiny little runways too.
Yeah.
These things can be done at little airports with less than 4,000 foot strips.
Right.
Which, and I think about just, Florida, for example, Vero Beach, a place
Yeah.
where I'm at all the time. The nearest airline service is almost an hour drive. And that certainly isn't international. So if you could get on a King Air out of Vero Beach and head to Orlando, where you could get on the 7-6 going to Brazil, that's a winner.
Heck yeah.
That makes sense to incorporate into a Delta website if you've got a fleet of King Airs to do that.
Yeah, it really is genius. And I believe it also gives the people instant status on Delta at the highest level.
Oh, yeah. There's all kinds of little benefits. Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's interesting stuff. That's an interesting event to follow. These aircraft charter operators are interesting companies for you viewers to be looking at, because it's a good career move for you as a pilot, and they're all hiring. So
yeah, and what's interesting is if this little thing does go the way I'm thinking it will, and Delta's successful with this, get ready for a revolution in how we travel.
Yeah,
I mean, the FAA was flirting with this idea 20 years ago, this whole idea of all these small aircraft coming into little 3,000 foot strips all across the country and making this air taxi service.
Oh yeah, what was the one that?
Yeah, that kind of fell
went
apart.
bad. Yeah, what was the name of that? Hop a Jet or something?
Yeah, there was one. Yeah, that's right. They did start under that certification the FAA created, and then it just kind of fell apart. But this could be the inkling beginning of that. Delta has success with it. American and United are going to be nipping at their heels to do their own thing.
That's right. Yeah, it's interesting to see where this business can all go. I mean, there's smaller and more fuel efficient business jets coming out all the time, and a network of those could make things more cost effective for not just the 1%ers to fly.
Right.
Yeah.
But we just wanted to share this with you. We thought it was interesting, and I know some of our viewers will also.
Yeah, so if you find a great news story that you think would be great to share, just email us at podcast@ProPilotPlaybook.com, because we'd love to help you guys understand what's going on in the industry, and most of all, we'd love to help you become pilots.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in.